Hey guys, welcome to another edition of VGFacts 5 Trivia, a show where we give you 5 pieces of trivia on different topics. Licensing can make or break a game. A developer could be contracted to make a game based on a particular intellectual property, or they might pitch their own ideas to a corporation in hopes of it being picked up. Licensing can also be tricky. It can limit ideas used for a game, and regional differences can restrict where the game can be released in the world. Some licenses only apply to one country, so developers might repurpose a game for another country using different sprites and models to represent an entirely different intellectual property. A license could also be unknown in parts of the world, so developers might reskin a game but keep the programming intact in order to increase sales in different regions. With that in mind, let's take a look. You may be familiar with the dozens of video games based on food and drink products that released during the early to mid-90s. Brands like McDonald's and 7-Up wanted to claim a stake in the video game market, so various games featuring their mascots were released. In MC Kids for the NES, players can choose to play as either Mick or Mac. It's their goal to retrieve Ronald McDonald's bag of magic tricks, which were stolen by the Hamburglar. The title had a European exclusive release on the Game Boy known as McDonaldland. This had the same name as the NES game in Europe, which when brought over to the US was changed into Spot, the Cool Adventure. Instead of featuring McDonald's characters, it featured the character Spot, the mascot for 7-Up. In this version, most of the tiles and sprites were changed to reflect 7-Up, but unlike in the European release, it didn't feature a plot. To coincide with the release of the 1993 animated film We're Back, a dinosaur story, a couple of tie-in games were released for the Super Nintendo, Game Boy, and Sega Genesis. The Game Boy version was developed by the now defunct studio Beam Software, later known as Chrome Studios. Though the US version featured the characters from the film, 3 other versions featuring entirely different characters were released in different parts of the world. In Australia, it was released as Agrosaur and featured Agro, a popular TV puppet. In Sweden, it was released as Bamsi and starred the Swedish children's cartoon bear of the same name. In Europe, it was released as an original title called Baby T-Rex. A 4th version was intended for release in the UK and would have featured Ed the Duck, another popular TV puppet, one who traumatized me as a child. However, this version was cancelled, which, worked out pretty good for me. On a side note, what's noticeable in all of these releases is that the theme music heavily resembles the theme from one of Beam Software's later titles, Radical Rex. During development, Radical Rex was called Baby T-Rex, meaning it's possible that Radical Rex is a sort of spiritual successor to the European Baby T-Rex. The Crazy Castle series by Kemco is notorious for having its games reworked to fit different licenses across various parts of the world. The first game for the NES in North America was titled The Bugs Bunny Crazy Castle and starred Bugs Bunny along with other Looney Tunes characters. In Japan, however, the game featured Roger Rabbit from the Disney film Who Framed Roger Rabbit and was released for the Famicom Disk System. Subsequent games in the series in North America continued to star Bugs Bunny, however in Japan they featured Mickey Mouse instead. The second Japanese Mickey Mouse title, which was the second Game Boy Bugs Bunny Crazy Castle game, was released simply as Mickey Mouse in some parts of Europe, while in other parts of Europe the game featured Hugo, a Danish troll TV character. The third Japanese Mickey Mouse game featured Kemco's own character, Kid Clown, in the North American release. The third Bugs Bunny game in the series featured Kid Clown in Japan and was called Sorayuke Kid Go Go Kid. The 4th Japanese Mickey Mouse game was changed in North America to The Real Ghostbusters, while in PAL regions the game featured Garfield instead. The 6th, 8th and 9th games in the series had the same licenses worldwide and were based on Mickey Mouse, Bugs Bunny and Woody Woodpecker respectively. The Toka series by Codemasters, based on the Toka Motorsport event, had lasted for over 15 years. In countries other than the US, however, the 4th, 5th and 6th games in the series featured different licenses from various motorsport events organisers. This was most likely done to appeal to audiences within those regions. Toka Race Driver, released as Pro Race Driver in the US, was released as DTM Race Driver in Germany. This version was based on the Deutsche Tourenwagen Masters event featuring silhouette racing cars to select, and in Australia the game was released as V8 Supercars Race Driver and featured V8 engine supercars. The Nintendo DS spin-off, Race Driver Create and Race, was also released in Germany as DTM Race Driver 3 Create and Race, and in Australia as V8 Supercars 3 Create and Race. Perhaps the most notable of regional license changes was the game Super Mario Bros. 2, or as it was released in Japan, Yumi Kojo Doki Doki Panic, which roughly translates to Dream Factory Heart-Pounding Panic. The original Japanese game was released for the Famicom Disk System and features the mascots of Fuji Television. The game was developed as part of a deal with Fuji Television and Nintendo to tie in with Fuji's Media Technology Expo, known as Yumi Kojo. When released in the West, the characters Imogen, Mama, Lena, and Papa were replaced with Mario, Luigi, Peach, and Toad. Doki Doki Panic was reskinned as a Mario game because the original Super Mario Bros. 2, later released in the West as Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels, was deemed too difficult by Nintendo of America. The company essentially didn't want to alienate casual players and damage the Mario brand. The US Super Mario Bros. 2 for the NES would later be released in Japan as Super Mario Bros. USA. The game began development when Nintendo R&D in Kyoto were experimenting with a Mario game which innovated in vertical scrolling, in contrast to Super Mario Bros., which prominently featured scrolling horizontally. It's possible that Doki Doki Panic began as a Mario game and was the true Mario sequel all along. That's all for today, but why not subscribe to the Did You Know Gaming channel to keep up with future VGFacts videos, or follow VGFacts on Facebook and Twitter. Got an idea for a list? Let us know in the comments and we might just pick up on it. Or why not check out some of these other videos? And if you've enjoyed the sultry sound of my marvellous dulcet tones, none of which are dulcet or indeed sultry, then you can check out my YouTube channel, PortsCenter, where I talk about interesting and unique ports, conversions and re-releases of video games. I actually did an episode about Doki Doki Panic and Super Mario Bros. 2, and I did an episode about the Bugs Bunny Crazy Castle, so having a hard time feeling like I haven't been just plagiarised just a little bit, just slightly, feeling a little hurt, a little personally attacked here, but also possibly that's a terrible joke. So thanks for watching. Please watch my videos. Thank you.